Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another cold-based theme build for you, the Frostfist Monk. I know what you're thinking, Frostfist Monk, it must be the Elemental Monk only, right? No, all three subclasses can be utilized for this playstyle because it's going to be more so gear and playstyle dependent than anything else. If you've seen my double staff Frost Mage build or my Frost Juggernaut, they were received really well and had people commenting about how I should make a Frost team build for other classes. Those two builds work really well hand in hand together when it comes to playing as a party, but I figured why not add a third party member to that, the Frostfist Monk. So whether you like the classic Flurry of Blows playstyle, whether you want to be more of a ninja assassin, or even the Avatar Elemental Monk, you can utilize all three subspecs, so it's going to be really fun. Let's go ahead and break it down. Alright guys, when it comes to making this character, race does not matter whatsoever. It's going to have almost zero impact on the way you play this build, so pick whatever you want. When it comes to your starting stats and things like that, this is what I'm going with. Feel free to mess around with this if you do want stats elsewhere. This is what I'm going with. I will not be utilizing the Hag's Hair. Obviously, if you do, you can make this build a little bit better. Skill proficiencies, pick whatever you want here. It's not going to make or break the game. Pick what you think is going to be most useful for you and your party. I have 17 dexterity, 14 constitution, 16 wisdom. If you feel you need a little bit more HP over wisdom, you can switch these around, but just know as a monk, you will gain additional AC equal to your charisma modifier as long as you are not wearing armor. Monk level 2, you gain some key points, you get increased movement speed as long as you're not wearing armor, and you'll see that you'll gain even more movement speed every few levels because the monk just has insane movement and mobility. On top of that, you gain some 3 different things you can do specifically as a monk that are a little similar to a rogue but also different. So you have patient defense, it's a way to essentially make yourself more defensively. Attack rolls against you now have disadvantage and you have advantage on dexterity saving throws. Really nice if you want to be more defensive in combat. Step of the Wind dash, very similar to the rogue dash, except there's a difference. Here, it becomes a bonus action and jump no longer requires a bonus action whatsoever. So this is a great way to double your not only your movement, but also allow you to jump all over the battlefield. Step of the Wind disengage, very similar. You can disengage as a bonus action, and it's just like before, jump will no longer require a bonus action as well, so you can use this to get away and jump as many times as you like. Alright, so at level 3, you have a choice you need to make for this build. You have Way the 4 Elements, Way the Open Hand, and Way of the Shadow. All these are going to give you different things you can utilize to help increase your damage of this build. I personally like going Way of the 4 Elements just because I feel like it fits this build a little bit thematically better than the other two. That being said, you do not have to use When it comes to your subclass, all 3 subclasses can work for this build. That being said, because I am going to be multi-classing a few points into Rogue, I do find Way of the Shadow does fit this a little bit more thematically than the other two. However, all 3 of these have benefits of their own, and all 3 of these, when I tested, work perfectly fine for the build. It just changes up your playstyle a little bit. So pick whichever subclass you would like to utilize here. I'm going Way of Shadow though, because I do like the way this interacts in combination with some rogue things. So you get your first feat at level 4, which is really nice. You also gain Slow Fall, which is pretty cool. So you could go ability improvement if you want, but you can notice your dexterity is at 17. So what we are going to do instead is choose Athlete, get our dexterity to 18. The reason for this is because we have only 10 strength, so our jump distance isn't all that great. With this, not only will you gain dexterity to 18, but your jump distance will also increase by 50%, which is really nice. And if you happen to be knocked prone, you use less movement to get up. So Monk level 5, this is when you get your extra attack, so you can attack twice. You also gain Stunning Strike unarmed, and for weapons, it's a way to stun the target. It does damage. Stun targets have advantage or gives your team advantage when attacking them, and they can't take actions, bonus actions, or reactions. Great way to CC and set up additional damage for your team. You gain Cloak of Shadows as the Shadow Monk here. It's a way to become invisible, which is pretty cool. Monk level 6, you gain even more movement, more key points. Your fists are now considered magical weapons, meaning they overcome enemies' resistances and immunity to non-magical damage, making your fists hit even harder. You also have Shadow Step, which is one of the coolest abilities in the game. You can teleport from shadow to shadow, and afterwards your next attack has advantage. Really, really powerful, and I think it fits really well. And at Monk level 7, this is when you gain some additional things as well. So you now have Evasion, which is really great. Basically, whenever there's a spell that requires a dexterity saving throw, normally in game without this, if you pass the check, you take half damage, and if you fail, you take full damage. With Evasion, it's better. If you pass the check for a dexterity saving throw spell, you take 0 damage, and if you fail, you only take half. So it's a really great way to be a little bit more defensive. You also gain Stillness of Mind. If you are charmed or frightened, you automatically cast Stillness of Mind to remove the condition. It doesn't happen too often in combat, but when it does happen, this is a great way to just overcome that CC periodically without you doing anything whatsoever. Now, you have a choice to make here. Do you want to continue to be a monk, get your feet and go pure monk, or would you rather start to multi-class into rogue? I personally like the multi-class into rogue for this. Gaining the additional bonus action from thief is going to be really huge, plus they have some additional benefits we'll talk about. So we'll go rogue here. This will unlock your sneak attack ranged. You can increase your skill proficiencies with something else here if you would like. I am going to actually have this character be sneaky, so I don't need stealth all that much, but having sleight of hand is really cool. That way I can steal from people with no issues. Your other one, feel free to put it in anything you like. It's going to be up to you. Now at rogue level 2, you gain your bonus actions to hide, dash, and disengage. So if you don't need the additional bonuses that the monk versions have, you can use these instead. But if you do want the extra jumping thing with the monks, you might as well use those. It's going to be up to you. Rogue level 3, we are choosing Thief. We want that second bonus action. It's going to be huge for doing all kinds of additional damage. Alright, we are now Rogue level 4, so you have a couple of choices here. Do you want to continue down the rogue path, which you certainly can, or would you rather put your final 2 points into the actual monk? That choice I'm going to leave up to you. If you put it in monk, you're going to have a little bit more movement and things like that. If you put it into rogue, you will gain a little bit more sneak attack and some better defenses as well. I'm going to be going rogue here. My additional feat is ability improvement to get my dexterity maxed. And at rogue level 5, your sneak attack damage is going to be increased and you gain uncanny dodge. Great way to use a reaction to essentially take half damage. Because you are a little squishy as this class, I like having uncanny dodge to really help me survive in Act 3. For the most part, to utilize this build to its full potential, you're going to want to utilize some items you received during Act 3 at the very beginning. However, you can still utilize this playstyle and build throughout Acts 1 and 2, and we'll talk about gearing in a second. But as soon as you get to Act 3, I want you to come right over here to this shop, a little bit north of Rivington. Talk to this gentleman here. He's going to have a couple of items that you for sure want to buy, or steal if able. These snow-dusted monastery gloves. This is going to make your unarmed attacks deal additional cold damage. This is really fantastic. We for sure are grabbing this. And then he has a really, really powerful chest piece. When you use patient defense, you have Blade Ward, which is basically your defensive ability as a monk. And then when you use Step of the Wind, your next attack roll has advantage and deals additional force damage. Alright guys, let's go ahead and talk about gear. I'm going to talk about gear that you want to utilize once you get to Act 3, and of course I'll talk about other things you can use throughout your playthrough throughout Acts 1 and 2. So starting out, you can see I'm actually dual wielding here, and I know what you're thinking, why dual wield? Well, partly because I did want to make a dual wield monk build. I did have a request for this, so I feel like it is a little fitting that I can do it with a cold base build at the same time. My offhand dagger is going to be the cold snap. This increases your AC by +1, but whenever a creature misses you with an attack roll, they have to pass a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or they're chilled. If they are chilled, they take double damage from cold. Really fantastic. My main hand weapon is the Justicier's Scimitar. I really like this mainly because if you attack with advantage, you have a chance to blind your target, and you have a multitude of ways by yourself without even needing any help from allies to gain advantage. So this is a great way to just simply help CC your targets a little bit. Blinding your enemies is great because chances are they're not going to be able to hit you on their turn. This has a built-in mechanic here called the Shadow Soaked Blow as well. One of the most powerful weapon attacks you can do in game. It adds your proficiency bonus to the damage, it deals additional psychic damage, and it doesn't break stealth. So if you are stealth and you open up with this, you will pass another stealth check and stay stealth, which is really, really powerful. But this isn't frost damage. My fist attacks are because I have the Snow Dust and Monastery. So just like in other videos, I am going to showcase how you can use the Drakethroat Glaive to make your other weapon here do cold damage. So what you want to do is take your weapon, drop it on the ground, equip your Drakethroat Glaive, use the ability to put cold right on your weapon here. So I go ahead and pick this back up. Let's go ahead and equip my equipment again, and you can see the weapon, not only did it get another weapon enchant, but it also has 1d4 cold damage on it now as well. So we'll equip those again. My chest piece is the chest piece I showcased a little bit earlier. I really like this chest piece a lot. This thing is really powerful. So anytime you want to be defensive and use your ability right here, one of the monk abilities, Patient Defense, this already is going to make it so people probably aren't going to hit you. However, with this chest piece, you also gain Blade Ward, so all physical attacks will be reduced by 50%. If you use Step of the Wind, your next attack roll has advantage and will deal additional 1d8 force damage. So this is a way, by simply using a way to increase your movement, to also increase your damage because you'll have advantage. Because you have advantage, you can also sneak attack as well. And for those who don't know, right now you can actually use Flurry of Blows, and if you have advantage on the enemy and your main hand weapon is Finesse, you can actually use sneak attack damage while using Flurry of Blows. It's really powerful and does a lot of extra damage. So it's a really great combo to just simply open up on someone and just basically massacre them. I really like it a lot. My cloak here, I'm going with Cloak of Protection. I like having the extra saving throws and extra AC. Another really great item is going to be the Cloak of Displacement, but I do like using this on other characters, so pick whatever you want here. For my helm, the helm is really going to be preference on what you want to utilize for your build. I like the Diadem of Arcane Synergy just to give me a little bit of extra damage whenever I inflict a condition. Arcane Synergy will make your weapon attacks deal additional damage equal to your spellcasting modifier. We have 16 Wisdom, so it will give us +3 when this is up. If you don't want to use this, I do want to give a shout out to the Cold Rim hat. Once per turn, when you inflict a condition on the target, you give them Encrusting Frost, which is a stacking debuff, which is really powerful. Enemies have disadvantage on dex saving throws. Once they get to 7 stacks, they have to make a saving throw or they're considered frozen. And for those who don't know, if the enemy is frozen, they are considered incapacitated, but bludgeoning, thunder, and force damage will shatter the ice, dealing double damage, which is really, really powerful because of all the extra damage you can do. I like having the Encrusting Frost gear on other Frost-like builds so they can stack it up and then have the monk come in for big time damage. With Garb of the Land of Sky, using Step of the Wind to get the extra force damage on top of your Flurry of Blows, doing incredible damage here with all your attacks. You're going to be doing some big time damage when they're frozen, so it's a really great combo. If you don't want to utilize that or the Cold Rim hat or anything else, pick whatever you want. It's going to be up to you. When it comes to my boots, I do want to say there's going to be a couple of different boots you can use. The Nightwalkers obviously are going to be great because you can't be ensnared, you can't slip on grease or ice. If you don't care about putting ice fields down on the ground yourself, you don't have to worry about this. You could simply put on the other boots here that will give you additional damage with your fist attacks equal to your wisdom modifier. So this will boost up your damage. However, I do like having the Nightwalkers for the utility. Free Misty Step is never a bad thing, and not falling on ice fields if you pair this with other frost builds is really powerful. You could also use the Hoarfrost boots as well. That way if you had two melees and like a ranged person that are using all this cold magic, you don't have to worry about falling prone on ice. My necklace here, I just use this one once per long rest. When you crit, you can make them be paralyzed. Just an overall really good necklace for people that are going to have high crit chances. Because you have multiple ways to attack with advantage, chances are you probably will crit. I have Crusher's Ring here just to get even more movement. Your movement is already incredibly great as this build. Why not make it even better? And I had the Snowburst Ring. You can put the Snowburst Ring on any frost-based character that does cold damage, and it will make a puddle of ice on the ground. For example, we're just going to come up and attack Shadowheart here regularly. An attack, and you can see ice all over the ground right here, which is really, really awesome. One thing I do want to point out, when you are going to be playing this build, the offhand dagger is strictly for utility. You are never going to attack with this weapon, or should I say very rarely will you ever attack with this weapon. The reason I do want to say that is because you have as a monk the ability to attack with your fist as a bonus action after making an attack. But this is just for utility. It's a way to make the enemies get chilled and increase your AC. Your main attacks are going to be with your main weapon here, the Justiciar Scimitar, Flurry of Blows, and bonus actions as well for extra unarmed attacks. I do want to give a shout out to the Morning Frost staff that you get inside Act 1. As a monk, any monk weapon that you have will actually scale with dexterity instead of strength if your dex is higher. So this is a way, if you wanted to use the Morning Frost as a monk weapon, you certainly can. And it's what I tested out, and it's actually really fun, especially if you pair this with the Elemental Monk early on. It's a great combo. I also want to give a shout out to a very powerful armor piece you can buy here. I'm at the Crags, which is the in-between with Act 1 and the Mountain Pass. Lady Esther sells an amazing chest piece, which is honestly something you could utilize even throughout Act 3. This is going to increase your dexterity by 2 up to a maximum of 20. This is really great because with this build, I only have 2 feats. So this is a way, if you want to get your dexterity maxed, you can save a feat for something else. You gain +1 bonus to your dex saving throws, and it increases your jump distance by 5. This chest piece is absolutely insane. This is really, really powerful. This will allow you to be a monster all over the battlefield, and it's probably the go-to chest piece that you will want to buy as soon as you are able to for your monk. I do like the other chest piece we talked about earlier to set up some extra bonus damage, but this is a great overall chest piece as well. So feel free to pick either. They can both work out really well for you in this build. Also, Future Ronin here, sorry, I did want to state that if you plan to use Tavern Brawler over what I did for leveling, then I would recommend the Graceful Cloth in order to help increase your dexterity a little bit. It's going to be up to you though. One thing I forgot to mention that I should have earlier, you do have Darkness as this build, so if you wanted to combine that with the ring here to make you immune to blindness, you certainly can. So I'm going to do that. Let's enter turn-based mode and open up with Shadow Step. So I'm going to actually Shadow Step right behind this target. This is great. You can see because I Shadow Stepped, I now have advantage. It's considered a condition, so I get my Arcane Synergy. So let's go ahead and open up with my Shadow Soaked Blow here. And that was a crit, so we are going to use our Sneak Attack Critical. And he's basically dead. I failed my stealth check, unfortunately, which is like normally when you attack like that and no one sees you whatsoever, you can simply attack and just run away. They did end up seeing me, which is a little unfortunate, but I'm still in stealth, which is great because I can now have advantage on my next attack. I don't want to use my sneak attack damage right away yet. I'm actually going to use Flurry of Blows. You can see I have advantage on this target here. So I'm going to showcase that you can get sneak attack damage with Flurry of Blows still. Take a look at the damage here. You can see you have your bludgeoning, your cold, 9 slashing, which is a sneak attack damage, bludgeoning again, and cold damage again. So I know what you're thinking, how come I didn't go Tavern Brawler? Because it would make your fist attacks way stronger. It certainly will. And I tested the build out with Tavern Brawler. Works perfectly fine. It just requires you to sacrifice a talent. So what I ended up doing then is using potions like the Elixir of Giant Hill Strength in order to get your strength up. That way I can still keep my dex modifier. You can do that and it works out damage wise greatly, but it's a little too strong in my opinion, and it just basically breaks the game, I personally think. So let's go ahead and this guy, I don't like him. He's like right here ready to attack me. So we're going to stun him. Except it got saved, which is alright. No big deal. So what I can then now do, I could attack again. He has attack of opportunity. A little annoying. Let's try to stun this guy again. I killed him. Whoop, did not mean to actually kill him. No big deal. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Step of the Wind defense here. There's a lot of guys that are going to attack me, and I want to be a little bit more defensive. And because I do that with my chest piece, you have your blade ward as well. So if they do hit me with physical damage, it's going to be reduced. He missed. Fantastic. And the reason I keep having Arcane Synergy come up is because every time they miss, they have to make a check or they become chilled. And you can see he's chilled, the other guy's chilled. So my cold damage is going to be doubled on them. Alright, so I have all these guys next to me. What do I want to do on my turn? Because I don't want to die. So I'm actually going to use Shadow Step to Shadow Step back here. That way I'm out of combat with them. I'm going to use my Ice Knife on all these guys here. I'm going to try getting it in the middle to hit all 4. And the Ice Knife, unfortunately, how it missed all those guys is beyond me. Really unfortunate. But this guy here, he's a problem. So we're going to come up and try to knock him gone. So I did some good damage to him. Wasn't enough quite to kill him, but it's enough for me to come up and end my turn here. Ooh, that guy crit me. It did some good damage. So he was knocked prone. This guy probably won't be able to reach me because he's so far back. Alright, so I wanted to showcase this on purpose. You can see I put myself in light. Because I am no longer in a shadow, I cannot use Shadow Step. I cannot use Cloak of Shadows. I can use Minor Illusion if I wanted to, but now I'm thinking, what do I do? Because these guys are all ready to basically hunt me down. So this is when Disengage would be useful, so I can disengage and just jump anywhere I want. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use Disengage. I have a ton of movement, and I can jump as many times as I want. So let's jump. Just to showcase it, I can jump again. And I do want to show I have Swift as Wind as well, which is coming from my chest piece. You can see while Step of the Wind, your next attack roll has advantage. So I have Step of the Wind Dash, Step of the Wind Disengage. It works for both in order to have extra damage with my attacks, which is great because we are going to attack this guy right here. Let's open up with Flurry of Blows. And now I only have one, so I got to be careful. If I want to use anything else, like Darkness, it requires 2. So maybe we should just simply attack this guy regularly. Which I did. And you can see I did a lot of damage. I got the extra force damage in there. So he's almost dead, which is really fantastic. So let's go ahead and attack him again. And that's basically how you play the build, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This build complements the other 2 Frost builds I talked about earlier at the showcase, and it's just really fun. I really like this build a lot. Obviously, you can do more damage if you go Tavern Brawler, but I've already done Tavern Brawler so many times, so I wanted to try making a more dex-based build that feels fun to play regardless. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.